Okay, I would like to ask you to please close your eyes. Now, with your eyes closed, try to imagine, try to recreate this space that you're in as much detail as you can. And take a moment. Okay, now open your eyes and look around you. Do you notice any gaps between what you were able to recall and what your senses tell you now about the world? How accurate were you? Okay, this example shows how our brains process information from the environment around us. Humans are sensing beings, and we handle this flood of information from our senses by constantly shifting our attention according to immediate priorities. Now, this leaves gaps in our perception. And in real life, in everyday life, we smooth over these gaps with best guesses and biases. Now, we also use technology to fill in those gaps and help us. And the smartphone is a great example. So we use the smartphone like a second brain. We help find our way, and it makes us more productive, and we store our memories. We've gotten a lot of benefit from the smartphone, but we also have some troubling, unforeseen consequences from it, like cyberbullying on social media and tampering with some of our elections, just to name a few. The phone also gives us a really good comparison to think about the technology that I've been working on for 25 years, which is virtual reality, or VR. So if you're new to VR, it looks like this. VR reaches beyond the mind into the body and the senses. It engages your brain in a completely different way. We experience virtual worlds like they're real, like a place that we've been. And our brains process them in a completely different way than something that we just look at, an image that we look at. Now, VR is not like any other technology that's come before it. And it has the potential for a personal and social transformation that will surpass the impact of the smartphone. So it's going to bring a lot of benefits, and I want to share some of those benefits with you today. We're using virtual reality to change patient care and therapy and the way medicine is practiced. But, it has a lot of open questions. And today there are not very many people who have the experience with this technology to be smart VR consumers. So I also want to offer a framework to think about virtual reality. And I'll use my smartphone to kind of unpack the magic of how VR works. So I build virtual worlds for education and therapy. And I want to share today some examples from specific applications that we've made for treating pain, for relieving pain with virtual reality. So imagine that you're lying in a hospital bed, and instead of staring at the ceiling, you get immersed in a virtual world. This one is called Cool, and Cool takes you on a journey through this landscape of changing seasons and crystal caves, and you're playing paintball with these otters. And doctors are using this as a way to help patients get through procedures like wound care or bandage changes, and also to help people recover after surgery. So instead of fixating on the pain, your brain can get engaged and activated by a virtual world. And the results that we're seeing are tremendous. We see significant reductions in the pain that they're experiencing. We also see a significant drop in the amount of opioids that people need, the amount of drugs, like on the order of 20%. And this is also resulting in a reduction in the cost of care for the healthcare system. So this is what it looks like when it's in action in a hospital, and it helps us access and activate all of those abilities that we have. And let's see, so we can use a functional MRI scanner to look at the brain and see how the brain handles pain with and without VR. Now, there's a collection of areas of our brain that is called the pain matrix, and that includes the insula, the thalamus, and the ACC, the anterior cingulate cortex. And you can see in these pictures, with no VR, just pain and stress, we see a lot of activity in those brain areas. Now, with VR, we see two very interesting things. One is that these areas of the brain, the pain matrix, becomes much quieter, and you can compare those images and you see a big reduction in the brain activity in those areas. And then we see a shift. We see that brain activity move to other parts of your brain, such as the frontal cortex, associated with great positive things like problem solving and concentration. So these are significant changes in your brain, and they suggest that with plasticity and other kinds of approaches that we can make these changes last. So this is another environment that we created. It's called Glow, and Glow uses hand trackers, so those are my hands, and a heart rate sensor. And your heart rate sensor controls these fireflies that are dancing around in the environment. If your heart rate is elevated, the fireflies just hang out. But if you can relax and lower your heart rate, the fireflies reward you by coming and playing with you, and they let you play with them. So this biofeedback connection between you and the virtual world makes the world responsive to you. And doctors are using this to change the pain response for chronic pain patients. And we're even seeing patients finally get off of opioid addiction after long-term use using VR, which is a great outcome. We're very happy about that. Making VR personal and responsive, combining it with wearables, is opening up a whole new avenue of therapy for virtual reality that is going to address a lot of new chronic conditions. So as I've been working in virtual reality and watching a lot of people use the technology, I've seen some very interesting results. The first one is that virtual worlds can be created and manipulated to blur the boundary in your memory between things that happened in the real world and things that happened in the virtual world. So, did that really happen? A second one is that people get very excited when they're in the virtual world, and sometimes they will tell me that they saw or did things in the program that weren't really there. So I'm sure I saw it, but no, you didn't. And VR can tinker with your sense of agency, your sense of control. So excitement, coincidence, overexuberance can lead people to believe that they had control over something in a virtual world that they had no control over at all. So I did that, but sorry, no. So these examples show how VR goes directly to our brains and our bodies and ultimately our emotions. Emotions are a complex interplay between body and brain. And we use our emotions to kind of intuit and understand the world in a way that we're not necessarily conscious of. So VR goes directly to these emotional signals, and it is able to kind of go beyond them and go directly to your emotional centers. Now, so I want to kind of wrap this part up. And so in summary, VR is powerful and unique because it extends our capabilities. It has the capacity to change our brain activity. It is personal responsive, and it also directly affects our emotions. Now, the result is a new, high-impact, transformative media. Now, I'd like to compare that to my cell phone. So the channel of information passing between me and my phone is very limited. The phone offers me no way to apply all of my physical capabilities and my finely tuned senses. And my experience of my phone is as an object outside of me. So the limited ways that I can use my phone limit the phone's ability to act on me. Now, there are billions of people and things on the other side of this phone trying to break through this screen to influence me. If the phone provides a small pipeline of information between me and it, VR is a superhighway. What's going to happen when that highway connects all those messages directly to our brains and our emotions? So children alive today will be the first generation to grow up with ubiquitous virtual media. How is it going to change their development? Now, the phone has brought a lot of changes to us. What is going to be the impact of having millions of targeted, personalized, downloadable virtual worlds? So I've already seen some examples of virtual worlds that reinforce narrow stereotypes or skew the reporting of news events. VR is more potent than video on your phone screen or fake TV news because we remember virtual experiences like real experiences that we've had. So whether those virtual worlds that I saw were biased because of intention or naivete, that doesn't matter, but we can and we must get VR right. So VR helps us see what is unseen inside of us and access what we otherwise could not access. Embodying a virtual avatar, like a virtual skin, of someone of a different gender or race can alter our sense of identity in a matter of minutes. So virtual worlds will make our unconscious conscious. They can increase our sense of empathy or shift our sense of group identification for better or for worse. VR will make the unspoken spoken. So I've shared with you some of the positive opportunities with this technology, and I'm extremely optimistic about the value that VR will bring to healthcare and education and many other places. And to be totally clear, I believe that VR will help us solve some of our most challenging health problems in physical and mental health. But we must go there with care. And as budding consumers of virtual media, ultimately you will have the power to choose how you will or won't use it. Become smart consumers of VR. Meet this future with eyes open, and let's make wise choices. Thank you.